Back in the day, it was so easy to program us into thinking certain things. Hollywood was at its most powerful when all we knew was the TV. You just turn on your TV and boom, programming. They programmed us into thinking that Africa was the most rundown, poorest, dirtiest, ugliest country ever, and us as black people, we believed it, and we drag our people down and our heritage down for so many years. They made us think that the American dream and life in America was the supreme of any place in anywhere in the world, and it was something that would set you free as a human being. It was just easy to program you. But now that TV isn't our primary source of programming or a primary source of watching, it's harder for them now. So now they got to use different ways. They got to use Instagram. They got to use YouTube. They got to use TikTok. They got to use your phone that you're using right now, that when you're not using it, they're listening. They're trying to use surveillance, through your Ring cameras. They're trying to use music. They're using movies. They're using whatever they can to try to grasp your attention. And there is a big war today in 2025 over your attention, over your power, because so many, especially Africans, so many of us have been reclaiming our power back. So many of us have been ditching the matrix. My name is Bradley. I am here to raise consciousness in the Bahamas, and I want to tell you how I am escaping the matrix today in 2025. Now, the average person listening to this story may call me a loser, may think that I'm wasting my life and throwing it away, wasting my potential. But I want to give you a little bit of background of who I am and my story, and how I came to make the decisions that has brought me here in this mindset today. I was born and raised here in Nassau, Bahamas, to Haitian parents. Went to high school here, all public schools. I was born in a Christian household for as long as I knew. And I went to college at Oral Roberts University, a conservative Christian school. And ironically, it's the place where in, I want to say 2021, I went through my spiritual awakening in a Christian university. I know it sounds crazy. That's the place where my Christian faith is supposed to be at its strongest. But that's where I rebelled the most, because I saw inconsistencies. I saw hypocrisies. I saw where there were lies, and I knew that there was something greater. And, at the same time, 2020 happened, COVID happened, quarantine happened, and after 2020, we went into a certain point in the solar system. Don't know how to let the astrologers tell you, but all I know is that we hit a certain point in the solar system that allowed a new light from the sun to shine onto us, and we just started getting downloads from left, right, and center. TikTok started blowing up with consciousness and conscious talks. The average person meditating. You don't have to be in India to meditate no more. People in America, in the Caribbean, people everywhere, they started to realize that religion is bullshit and that we've been fed lies all our lives, right? And all of this started to happen while I was in this Christian university, and not even knowing of what was happening on social media and how everybody was going through the same thing I was going through, I became depressed. I went through a serious depression, questioning myself, questioning my abilities, because I ran track. That's the way I was able to get into college, was through track and field. I got a scholarship, full ride to run track and field, Division I, NCAA. Understand? Made it to the NCAA West prelims. Didn't make it to the finals, but hey, I was just running track to get through school. I didn't want to go pro. Never had any intentions of going pro, but I still wanted to be great at it, and music has always been my passion. And throughout that time, I became depressed after the pandemic because I couldn't go to practice. I couldn't run track, and that was the only thing that I knew, even though it wasn't the most my most passionate endeavor, but it was the only thing that I knew. And when it was taken from me, I felt like I had no value as a human being. And I was displaced in America. There was no place for me to go except for, at my sister's in Florida. And I just felt like I was homeless. I had no home. And it was a really tough time for me to go through. But then I realized I wasn't the only one who was starting to get these thoughts in my brain that maybe there's something off with Christianity. There's something off with this faith that I'm believing in, that I've been banking all my thoughts and all my beliefs and all my decisions on, right? And throughout that time, even when I was in Nassau, before I went over there, I had some jobs here and there. I worked at this place called Nature's Way Nursery. It's a plant nursery. I dealt with plants and stuff. My dad helped me get the job. I worked there for 3 months full time. But then I decided that I wanted to go to college and I wanted to run track to get me through college, and that I didn't want to just work this job my whole for the rest of my life. The people that I was working with, they were in their 40s, 50s, 60s, and they were looking at me like, bro, you are too young to be working this job. I was 16 years old at the time, laying grass on a Saturday, and then by 3 p.m. I had a race to go run. And so my coach really had an intervention with me. Shout out to Coach Miller, Dads. Respect to him, because he really assisted in changing my life. He told me, listen, if you really want to take this college thing serious, if you really want to take this track thing serious, you could really do some big things. You can't be working this type of job, laying grass, cutting grass, and doing all this stuff, right? Because that's what my dad wanted me to do. So I went against my father's will, and I decided I wanted to do track and field full time, and that put me in some hot water. You understand what I'm saying? Because I went against my father's will. But I was eventually successful in getting a scholarship and going to the U.S. to study in school, full ride. It's a $40,000. It might be more now, but $40,000 per year, all covered. And I was studying international business with a minor in Spanish. Throughout that time, I was getting jobs, couldn't keep a job because, I was running track. But I also didn't have a good feeling about working in certain jobs. You understand what I'm saying? Number one, there wasn't, no deep purpose in these jobs. I was just giving them my hours and giving them my free labor for a couple of change. And then when I went to college, to make a couple of dollars on the side, I could only work on campus. If you're an international student, you know that you can't work off campus in the United States. You will get deported, so don't do it. So I worked in I worked in the bookstore, and I also, sat desk. If you sit in desk like in the dormitories, I just, sat at the desk, made sure that boys wasn't going in the girls' dorms and girls wasn't going in the boys' dorms, and, shit like that, right? I still didn't like those jobs. They were still, little dead-end jobs. So I stopped doing that after college. And after college, I went on to Florida to pursue my master's degree, right? And that's the point where I realized that for me, in the life path that I wanted to take, a master's degree didn't make sense for me to get. I didn't want to work in corporate. I already knew that. I did not want to be in a cubicle or, just sitting in an office wearing a uniform or a suit and tie. I didn't like the corporate life. I don't like what they stand for. I always knew that. And so I was like, yeah, fuck corporate. I'm not doing that. And negotiate to anybody that's working corporate. I have a friend that works in corporate right now, and he's doing well for himself. And, I'm proud of him. But that's just not that's not the path I wanted to take in my life, right? So, and at the same time, I totally fell out of love with track and field. I was at the University of South Florida running track and using that to fund my education in a master's business degree. And I quit all of it, bro. And I didn't like the coach. He was an asshole. I didn't like, what was going. I didn't like the program. So I decided to leave, and I started to dive in more into making music and becoming a musician and becoming an artist and producing. And if you stop studying on the visa that I had, if I stopped studying, I had to leave the country, and I wasn't ready to come back to the Bahamas yet. So I was like, where's the closest place that I can go where I can really become a student of music and learn the whole world of music and artistry and production. And I looked at Toronto, Canada, and me and my girlfriend, went there, right? So we went there. She studied in school, and I worked. I worked at an audiophile store called Babe Law Radio. Shout out to Babe Law Radio. Fucking love that place. So I worked there for 2 years, and throughout that entire experience, throughout that entire time, I learned as much as I can and gained as many networks as possible, because we had a lot of touring artists that came in, to buy IEMs and buy speakers and buy headphones for their mixing and production and stuff like that. So I got to know producers, I got to know engineers, I got to know artists, I got to know DJs, and I also expanded my knowledge in music and music consumption, in terms of consuming music through headphones, streaming, CDs, vinyl. I learned the whole audiophile world when it comes to like speakers, preamps, amplifiers, DACs, DAC amps, digital audio players, wired open backs and closed back headphones, Bluetooth headphones, just that entire world, right, from a consumer standpoint. And I increased my knowledge from a production standpoint as a creator, as a music creator. I performed 2 shows in Toronto, Canada. And I'm not saying this to brag. I'm not doing this to brag. I'm still staying on topic here and getting to the point of how I am escaping the matrix, because throughout that entire time, I did not own a car. I took a public transit, so I wasn't paying any car notes. I was paying rent. And that's the one thing that had me stuck the entire time, is that I was paying rent, right? Even when I was in Tulsa and in Tampa, I was paying rent. I was doing those things. And then I decided there was, this point where I realized that, this is a climate that me as an island boy, I am not going to suffer through this type of climate or go anywhere colder. The USA is in a place, where I saw that it was, fit for me to live at that point in time, and I decided to move back home to Nassau, Bahamas. And I think this is a way for me to escape the matrix, because the main thing is that, I'm back in my childhood home, and I do have a business, I am a producer and a mixing and mastering engineer. I work remotely with artists and labels and people all over the world, from the comfort of my own home studio at home. I also extend my services to the local community at large to help Bahamians to have access to affordable recording, mixing, production, and mastering services. This is the way that I'm escaping the matrix, because if you are stuck at a point where you're in a job that you're not proud of, or where you can't fully be yourself and express yourself and express your not really your spirituality, but express your views and your ideas, then you're stuck and you're being programmed. If you are tied to certain things, like, and I'm not telling anybody to not have kids, but if you have kids, then you have to work any job, whatever job that you can get, so that you can provide for your kids. Those things are going to hinder you from fully actualizing and being yourself and following your own purpose. I think for anybody that's interested in doing this and following their spirituality and wanting to express their ideas and wanting their full and true freedom, to let go of anything that might be tying you down. Even having a car, not to say that having a car is bad, but if you have a car, make sure that you have a strong business to fund your car. Or if you have a car, make sure that car is making you money. Whatever you have, make sure that's making you money. Whatever asset you have, if it's not making you money, it's a liability. Learn these things, because this society has programmed us to thinking that having certain things in this life is a milestone for us to feel like we are achieving certain milestones and getting up in life. But based on my experience and the experiences that I've seen other people that are much older than me have, when they're at that age, they don't feel like they've fulfilled anything. They might have a pension, they might have a car. They still feel like they haven't fulfilled their true purpose on this earth. They still can't freely express their own ideas. They have been completely brainwashed. They have been completely programmed and are sending that down into their bloodline through their kids and everything like that. And they have been completely, programmed into this matrix, and, so I wanted to avoid that as much as possible. And for anybody that's on the same path as me, I think the way that you do it is to firstly put yourself in a position, if you can, to where you have the minimal amount of bills as possible. Now, life will always, as long as you breathe, there'll be bills you have to pay. So you have to put yourself in the position that you're not going to be paying no car note. You're not going to be paying rent if you have to, but if you're paying rent, make sure it's sustainable. You want to make sure that you have a job that allows you to express your ideas and your thoughts and your ideals freely. And you want to make sure that what you're doing has purpose for the community, and providing real and true value to the community. And I'm also exploring this. I don't have all the answers, but I'm just saying this is what I'm doing. I know I have a degree. I know I could be doing whatever. I could be whatever I want to be, like, for real, like, based on the experience that I have in the track and field world, and also based on my degree. I don't have a lot of experience, I must say, because I just was never comfortable. The longest I've ever worked a job was at Babe Law Radio for 2 years, you understand, at entry level position. But I could be whatever I want to be, but I decide that I'm going to hold on to my own destiny and be whatever I truly want to be, and not what society wants for me to be, or things that I should be, or things where I should be at. And I think that's the way that you break out of the matrix. I'm going to grow my businesses. I'm going to continue to express my ideas through YouTube, through this channel. I'm going to continue making music. That's, mainly what I have to say. I can't sit here and act like I have it all figured out. I don't. But for you, if you feel this way, just know that you're not alone, and that you should take it into your hands to be in control of your own destiny, and not listen to whatever other people have to say. Now, mind you, make money, because that's what this whole society is ran by. Make money, and you make money by being resourceful to your community. You make money by providing something that is of true value, not perceived value, true value to your community. That's how you do it. And don't bow down to nobody, especially not the white man. And I'm not racist, I'm not prejudiced or whatever, but those are the people that are in control of our society, particularly the Jews. I'm Bradley, and I'm here to raise consciousness in the Bahamas.